Hello, everybody, and welcome to the next talk on the Williamite Wars. So, where did we finish off last week? The Duke of Marlborough had arrived, or the Earl of Marlborough as he is this time, and he has taken Cork and Kinsale. So, the Williamites try and consolidate with this, okay? First thing is, the command of the overall Williamite army is given to one of William's Dutch officers. This is a man called Ginkel. His full name is Godhard Anried von Ginkel, but I'm just going to call him Ginkel, okay, because that's what we call him here, Ginkel. Ginkel's professional soldier, had fought in all of the campaigns of William before Anglo-Dutch Wars and the Franco-Dutch Wars, okay, so he is basically a professional soldier. He is, I would say, a steady officer is the best I could probably say about Ginkel. Okay, so while this is all going on, the Jacobites have been defeated at Cork and Kinsale. As we talked about last week, their garrison leaves and they move back towards Limerick. Limerick itself is still holding, as we know, and they've done a great job. One shot, along with the Jacobite command, McElliot, they've held Limerick. Now Limerick is, the Jacobite command is going to change hands again. What happens is Tyrconnell, the Earl of Tyrconnell, goes to France and meets with James and meets with Louis XIV, and tells them all about how Limerick held and how the Williamites were repelled from Limerick and they lost a lot of men. Well, we know we lost nearly 2,500 men. Louis is enthused by this, and so is James. So Tyrconnell goes and meets James in Saint-Germain. This is where James is set up in this palace. And while this is happening, another Irish official comes and meets with Louis and tells him a different story. He tells him that the Jacobites may have won at Limerick, but they have lost Cork and Kinsale, and the Williamite command now is under Marlborough in one part and Ginkel in the other. And Louis originally was going to back up the Irish campaign with more troops, but he decides that what is really needed is commanders. So he goes to one of the commanders that he looks towards as one of his best. This is the Marquis of St. Ruth. St. Ruth is again a professional soldier, quite a ruthless man. He was known as the Hammer of the Huguenots because of the campaign against the Huguenots in the Cevennes, which is in the southern part of France. He, quite a ruthless man, would have been a friend of people like Comte de Lausanne, and also de Rosen, the man from the Londonderry talks. So, yeah, he was a professional soldier, knew his business, knew all about morale and how to boost morale, and he was the right man, Louis thought, for the job. Tyrconnell goes back to meet with Louis, and Louis tells him, look, we're not going to give you any more men, but we will give you some guns. In fact, we'll give you 8,000 new muskets. Now, in saying they're new, these are mostly this matchlock we talked about. You know, the match in the end of the gun, like this match here, on the end of the gun here, instead of the flint. So they might be new guns, they might be unused guns, but they are still old technology. And along with the guns, he will also send 400 pikes. So this is, and around about 15 to 20,000 new uniforms. Most of these will be French uniforms, so they'll be white, off-white, because the French fought in an off-white coloured uniform. So Tyrconnell was a bit disappointed that he wasn't going to back up the campaign with men. But then Louis says to him, but I'm going to send more officers to you, experienced officers, people like St. Ruth. So Tyrconnell gets on his way, gets through back to Ireland through the Williamites are having their naval blockade out, but the French also have their naval, and we know the French won a massive battle, naval battle in 1690. So the Williamite naval command is still suffering from that. So the Williamites are sending out patrols, but these patrols don't really catch Tyrconnell's ships, and the ships get back no problem. Tyrconnell arrives back in Ireland and he decides that the army needs restructured, starts to restructure the army. Most of the army is around Limerick and around the outside of Limerick and the areas. Then he has to go and meets with the command and tells them that James and Louis have come to the conclusion that no Irish officer should be in charge of this army, that it should be a French officer, and St. Ruth was coming with 300 more French officers. A lot of the Irish officers weren't happy with this, including Sarsfield, but they had to just get on with it. If they wanted the guns and they wanted the uniforms and they wanted the support, then they just had to get on with it. So the Jacobites were waiting for St. Ruth to arrive. Sarsfield, also part of this, coming back from Tyrconnell, he brings commissions with him. First thing is, Sarsfield is made the Earl of Lucan, and he's made into a Major General. The overall command, as I say, will go to St. Ruth, but the Irish commanders would be, the ones that proved themselves like Sarsfield, would be given a higher command. So Sarsfield now is made into a Major General. Also, because of the new weapons, 10 new Jacobite regiments are raised of foot. So these are the infantry regiments, and also round about 3,500 new cavalry regiments. 3,500 new cavalry men are recruited. So there's a couple of new cavalry regiments, including a couple of dragoon regiments are put in place. The Jacobite supplies getting through the Williamite blockade annoys William of Orange. William at this time is not even in England. He's in the Netherlands, fighting Louis XIV's brother, the Duc d'Orléans. So William is very annoyed, and he sends more Williamite ships from the main command in Portsmouth over to Ireland to stop any more Jacobite ships coming through. Unfortunately, he doesn't stop St. Ruth's ship getting through, and St. Ruth eventually, his ships are just off the coast, but they can't land because of the weather. Williamite command is now given, as I say, to Ginkle, and Ginkle has his eyes on Athlone. Okay. William is annoyed also with many of the officers that he saw in the field when he was in Ireland. So he replaces Douglas, Kirk and Lanier, and he replaces these with Tolmash, who's an English officer, with Hugh Mackay, who's a Scot, who's going to really prove himself in this campaign. And the other one is a man called the Marquis de Rainey. Rainey was a French Huguenot, an experienced cavalry officer. So these officers now are replaced. As I say, Athlone is going to be the next big place that they're going to have to take. The Jacobites send Major General Clifford with a force of 2,300 to stop the Williamite advance towards Athlone. Sarsfield then moves to a place called Balnamore, and Balnamore is actually garrisoned by some new Williamite English troops, and Sarsfield is defeated and pushed back. So the Jacobites want to take back Mullingar. Mullingar was taken by the Williamites in the earlier campaign, and they want to take it back. St. Ruth eventually arrives. The ships land on the 9th of May, 1691, and he is accompanied by the 300 new officers sent by Louis. So he sits about the next 7 or 8 weeks training the men, okay? He wants to get the men ready for battle. He has a command now of 37,000, okay? That outnumbers the Williamites, but he has to garrison places. So in the field, he could only really take 20,000 men, okay? So William, fighting in Europe, as I say, he replaces these officers with the new officers, and the new officers automatically take command. And the Williamite army masses around Mullingar. The men are battle-hardened veterans, okay? A lot of these men that are now come are men who were fighting for William in the United Provinces. So there's new German regiments, there's new Swiss mercenaries, there's new Dutch regiments, new Danish regiments, and new Huguenot regiments. So these are all battle-hardened veterans, okay? And also, he has brought more cannon, okay, including around about 40 32-pounders. So this is a massive amount of artillery, okay? William now, according to Richard Docherty's book, William now has the biggest amount of artillery ever seen in Ireland's history, the Williamite army. William not himself, because William's fighting in Europe at this time. But the Williamite command now has the biggest artillery train and the biggest amount of guns ever seen in Ireland's history. And it really is never seen again. Okay? So on the 6th of June, the Williamite army marches towards Athlone. Very slow march, but they have to take their time. They're always worried about Sarsfield and the Jacobite cavalry getting into the back of them again and causing another attack like what happened at Ballyneedy. Okay? Balnamore is taken so easily by the Williamites. And St. Ruth, he starts to get his men ready, and they start to march towards Athlone. But they're in Limerick at the time, okay? They're a good bit away. Sarsfield and Wanchop are sent to prepare Athlone for the forthcoming siege. Wanchop, we know about him. He was at Limerick. He is a great engineer, Scottish Jacobite, very, very highly experienced officer. And Sarsfield, well, he inspires the men. Ginkle's army eventually arrive on the 19th of June, and 14 32-pounder guns are sighted. That means they're ready. They get the guns ready, and then they start throwing the cannonballs, boom, up against the walls at Athlone. Athlone Castle is an older castle. The walls are not that thick. They're probably about 10 feet thick. So these 32-pounders, it's not going to take them very long to really reduce this to rubble. And within 2 days, they have already taken down the eastern wall. Okay. Ginkle, at this point, he sort of sits on his laurels. He doesn't really want to move forward. He wants to make sure that the place is completely razed to the ground before he attacks. So Wanchop shores up as much as he can in the walls, puts in an inner wall, and puts in some ditches, and they defend the walls as much as they can. But as I say, the outer eastern wall is reduced to rubble. The Jacobites left inside know the only way the Williamites are going to take the town is across the bridge. They're going to have to ford the river or go across the bridge. So they start making defences to stop this happening. Okay. Ginkle also knows this. On the 28th of June, he meets with his command and officers, and a Danish officer says, I will take a small force across with grenadiers. So these are going to be known as the Forlorn Hope. Again, we talk about this Forlorn Hope. And these guys are going to basically the first attack. What Ginkle's really doing is checking out where the Jacobite strengths and weaknesses are in these attacks. Okay. And so the Danish Guard grenadiers, they march across onto the bridge, and they're met by Jacobite fire, and they hold the position as much as they can. They advance a little bit, and then they get down behind some of the barriers. The Jacobites pour a lot of fire upon them. It's quite an intense battle goes on. They're under intense fire, and they also have the bombardment going in. And the bombardment is massive. It is absolutely massive. These 14 guns Also, these mortars, these big mortars, are found balls up over the walls. And a Jacobite Scottish soldier, a guy called John Stevens, in Richard Docherty's book, he says that this is what he saw. The enemy, this is the Williamites, in the meantime, used 30 pieces of cannon, all their mortars that way, so that with the fire and with the balls flying, it was so thick that this spot, that means Athlone, was hell on earth. This was the hottest place that I'd ever saw in my service. And Stevens was a regular soldier, had served at Killiecrankie, had served in many campaigns for James II, and he wrote a lot of diaries and stuff at the time. And this is what he's saying about Athlone. It's the hottest, most dangerous place that he's ever served. So this is the Williamite artillery, and this is the fire coming down upon them. The bombardment it's unbelievable. Okay, and I'll give you the statistics in a minute. Okay, Ginkle then backs up the Forlorn Hope and sends 1,500 men, including 60 grenadiers. Again, these are the tallest men in the army. So again, these are Danish, from a Danish regiment, and this time they would wear armour. They would wear body armour. Some of them even wore armour helmets. So this is an old way of fighting, it's siege warfare, okay? These guys are going to try and take the bridge. So they have full armour on, they've a grenade, they're throwing their grenades, they're firing their muskets, and they're charging into the enemy. So they are. So the Danes, and the 1,500 men, including the Danish grenadiers, they march onto the bridge. After 1 hour fighting, the Jacobites retire back to the inner wall, and after another hour's fighting, the Williamites and their command have taken the Jacobites, and the town is taken. But there is still a Jacobite garrison just outside the town, okay? And the bombardment continues on, okay? The Jacobites have retired, some of them, okay, not all of them. So there is still a Jacobite force within the area of Athlone. So the Williamites will continue to pound and pound and pound. And what Richard Docherty says is the estimated amount of gunpowder used is 50 tons. So 50 tons of gunpowder. 12,000 cannonballs, okay, 600 mortar shells. So this is over a very short time, a couple of days. You have 12,000 of these guys, and bigger than these, hitting these walls. The place is reduced to powder, to rubble. But the Jacobites still hold a part of Athlone, and the Williamites will really have to try and take this. The Jacobites defeated, retire, and they retire back as far as they can towards Galway, because remember, the French infantry are at Galway. The village of Ballinasloe in Galway is where they amass, okay? William sends scouts forwards, and he finds out, sorry, not William, Ginkle sends scouts forward and finds the Jacobites at Ballinasloe. He wants to defeat the Jacobites in Athlone first before he moves towards Ballinasloe. So again, they pound and pound and pound, and eventually the Athlone itself is taken. The Jacobites retire back, and Ginkle then prepares his army for the advance, but they're very slow. They're very slow in advancement. Again, Ginkle is worried about an attack from Jacobite cavalry into his flank, which could destroy his cannon. Okay. The Marquis of St. Ruth, in charge of the Jacobite army now, he, at Ballinasloe, looks around the area, and he decides that this area is a perfect place for a battle. Okay. He rides around, and eventually he finds the exact spot where he wants to fight. And it's a place called Culminating Hill. Okay? Culminating Hill's a massive, massive, long hill, okay? And at the foot of the hill is a very small village. And the village he believes would be turned into a killing ground, okay? And that little village is called Ockram, okay? And you can go today to the village of Ockram and go to the battle centre, the Battle of Ockram Visitor Centre. And I highly recommend it. I'm actually on the committee of the Battle of Ockram Visitor Centre. I go every year. Well, maybe not this year because of COVID, but I will certainly be there next year, God willing. So the Jacobites, St. Ruth sees this as an opportunity. Both the armies are around about the same size, 20,000, maybe 22,000 on the Williamite side. But the Williamites have a massive amount of artillery. They have a massive amount of experience, and they have quite a lot more cavalry than what they had at the Boyne. The Jacobites have got more infantry than what they had at the Boyne, and they have more infantry than the Williamites have here in the field. But they're inexperienced. Some of them are brand new, green, as we would call them, green regiments. St. Ruth knows this himself, okay? And he wants to build up the morale within the men. So he meets with the men, and he tells them that he is here for them. He is here to support them. Okay, he even goes to the clergy, the Catholic clergy, and he says to them, build up the men's morale. Tell them that God's on their side. Tell them that Mother Mary is with them. Okay, and they build up this great religious fervour, and they turn it into a crusade against Protestants. This is really St. Ruth being St. Ruth. Okay, he is quite a religious zealot. We know this because he's known as the Hammer of the Huguenots for what he did against the Huguenots in the Cevennes in France. So St. Ruth has turned it into, in a certain way, has turned this into a sectarian campaign, even though there's Protestants within the ranks of the Jacobite army. St. Ruth is making all this into a religious fever, and the Irish, it's Irish against the Protestants, you know. So he's building up the morale of the men doing this, because this is what they want to hear, okay? Sarsfield and his cavalry, they're attacking the Williamite advance guard and stopping the Williamites advancing quickly towards Ballinasloe. So it's a very cautious advance, Ginkle's army. Very slow. And also he's low on gunpowder and on ammunition because of what happened at Athlone. 12,000 cannonballs have been lost at Athlone. So he's going to have to wait for some supplies coming as well. So they slow their advance down as much as they can. They still advance, but very slowly. So it eventually, the 11th of July, 1691, Jacobite scouts report that Ginkle's army are on the outskirts of Ballinasloe. So St. Ruth, he does what was known as a retreat back. Now, this isn't a retreat as in a runaway. What he is doing is basically taking his men back to the position at Culminating Hill, where he feels he can win. Okay? So the Jacobite army retire back to Culminating Hill. The Williamites take Ballinasloe without much fighting at all, and there they spend the night. Ginkle meets with his generals. They assess the battle ahead. They look at the two armies. They both know that they're around about the same size. St. Ruth meets with his generals. He gives them hope. He gives them false hope in a certain respect, and also he promises them things that he can't deliver. Okay, but he wants to build up this fever within the men. Okay. He says that they will be rewarded not just by James for their support, but also by Louis XIV. So many of these officers were taken into this, and many of the men are taken into this. He also gets the Catholic clergy to come and give a mass to the men, and he promises them God will protect them, that Mother Mary will be there to give them succor, and they will all be turned into saints for their fighting. So this is the sort of stuff that St. Ruth's doing, okay? Ginkle meets with his generals. They have some beer, some food, and they discuss what's going on. Ginkle is a cautious man, but he's very understanding. He listens to everyone and everyone's point of view. Many officers put their plans forward, but the one that Ginkle really likes is a Scot, and this is Hugh Mackay, the man who was defeated at the Battle of Killiecrankie, is now going to play a pivotal role in the Battle of Aughrim. It's a very simple plan. St. Ruth's plan is that the Williamites are going to do this frontal attack forward, okay? Across the battlefield of Aughrim, there is hedgerows, okay? So if he puts men in the hedgerows, and they use the natural defences, so around the outside of this Culminating Hill, at the bottom of Culminating Hill, there's a bog area. It's known as the Bloody Hollow because of what happens in the battle, but at this time it's just a bog, okay? It's Culminating Bog. This will slow down the defences of the Williamites. Some of this bog is it's very hard to get across. Some of it is like 6 or 7 feet deep, okay? It could kill men. And St. Ruth wants to use this. What he believes is when the Williamites get to this area, they'll panic, and then they'll turn their flank and then try the attack on the right-hand side of his battlefield. Okay? This is what St. Ruth believes, okay? What the Williamites see and what Hugh Mackay sees is that the Jacobite army is situated in 3 positions, okay? So you have the centre that's being held, okay, by mostly infantry. On the left-hand side, there is very little. There is the causeway, which is this very small, thin area that the Jacobites believe is really impassable. But what they have done is they've taken 400 musketeers and they've put them in the castle, which is here on the left-hand side at Aughrim Castle. On the right-hand side, the main Jacobite cavalry force under Sarsfield and Sheldon will hold the right flank. Okay. What Mackay sees is an opportunity here. This left flank, this causeway area, he has already sent scouts out to check it out. And it can be crossed if a man dismounts off his horse and walks the horse across the causeway onto the other side. Then there's a flat plain for around about 1.5 miles, and then that takes you up to the castle at Aughrim. Then you're into Culminating Hill and into the main Jacobite army. So Hugh Mackay's plan is very simple. That they take a Williamite force of cavalry, infantry and artillery, and they take this causeway area. Now the artillery will probably not be able to cross at the causeway, but certainly single file, the men will get across and the horses will get across. So this is a very simple plan if it works, okay? Even if it doesn't work, this movement of Williamites over to the left flank will make St. Ruth panic and will take men away from the centre and move to the left. And this will then give the Williamite main centre attack basically the momentum to go right up through. So it all depends on the plan. St. Ruth believes that the Williamites will get themselves bogged down in this boggy area and then have to turn their flank. Then he can bring the main force down along with the cavalry from the right flank and take the Williamites on the flank and destroy them. Ginkle listens to Mackay and he believes that Mackay's plan is a good one. Okay? So both men have their plans in place. Both armies are the same size, near enough. Okay? The Jacobite command is split into 4. Okay? So you have Dorrington in the centre with the infantry. You have Sarsfield and Sheldon on the right with the cavalry. And you have the Marquis St. Ruth and Hamilton also in with the guard in the centre. Okay? The Jacobites are in a position that they believe that they can win. The Williamites are in a position that they can win. Ginkle has studied the positions, and he believes that if Mackay's plan doesn't work, he has another plan. Okay, the right hand side, the Danish brigade is there along with the cavalry, the Danish cavalry. He will also send some of the Dutch cavalry, including the guard cavalry, to the right hand side, so they can sweep this right hand side. The right hand side being held by Sarsfield and Sheldon. They have a bridge, a small bridge. Sarsfield destroys that bridge, so the Williamites don't have an easy advance over the right flank. Okay, so the two armies are set up and they're ready to go. Their positions are set out. The Williamites have experience on their side. They have a commanding officer who is a cautious man, but he listens to his other officers, and he has a good command structure. On the other side, you have religious zeal. You have a crusade against Protestantism. You have ministers, including Alexis Stafford, out giving mass to the Jacobite troops. They've built up their religious fever. Even though they're green, they want to fight. They want to fight for the Jacobite cause. So you've got heart on one side, you have experience on the other. Who's going to win? You'll find out next week, friends, because next week is the full Battle of Aughrim talk. Thanks very much for watching. Thanks very much to Gers TV for facilitating all of these talks. And remember, my friends, that we are the people. Talk to you soon. Bye now.